Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined by the great fantasy master Lothario himself, Gray Albright. How's it going over there, Gray?
Not good, Beaton. Not good at all.
Yeah. Are you emotionally handling it okay? Do we need to send anybody to you? Do we need to send an extra pet your direction for support?
No. So we're recording this right after the Ronald Acuña Jr. injury, and I'm a little bit verklempt, I'll be honest. Not good, man. You know what? Honestly, like, what's going on, bro? What's going on with the injury, man? Because like I saw him go down. So I saw Ronald Acuña Jr. go down in a heap, right? By the second base bag in the Braves Pirates game. And then they just let him lay there and they didn't bring out a cart or anything. What are they doing, man? Like, why are they letting him walk off the field? Also, got a lot of thoughts, right? Also, what's the deal with it now being a different knee than the one he had surgery on? How many problems does this guy have with knees, man? What's going on with that? Wait, are we happy he only has two knees? Is that what's going on?
I mean, I wish he had like 6 of them right now, because then maybe we could just throw one away and be done with it. It didn't look good.
Actually, that's a good point. He should have more knees.
Yeah, give him more knees, Gray. Like, can we sacrifice some old people knees that don't need them? Like yours and mine.
So not exactly a doctor, but listen to this idea. So like how Tommy John takes the thing from the other part of the arm or the leg or wherever he takes it from and puts it in the elbow, right? What if we took Ronald Acuña's elbow and we made another knee out of it?
You might be onto something there if we can stretch it out far enough. I think.
Oh, okay. Okay, Ronald Acuña's he seems like he's got pretty good ankles, right? So what if we took one of his ankles and made it into a knee?
How about this, Gray? Stay with me. What if we just fuse Ronald Acuña Jr. and Shohei Ohtani together, and that way you get healthy knees, healthy arm, and then you just get a super player.
Oh. And then so then with my first pick of the draft, I take Shohei Acuna Jr.
Yep, that would be how it worked, Ray. Although there might need to be like 6 of them just to make it fair. Like we might have to give like the first 6 teams their stats just to give a fighting chance.
Yes, B-Don was sick of removing my typing from the podcast. So he bought me a silent keyboard, right? So I'm going to go on to Google right now, and I'm going to Google what's going on if I roster Ronald Acuña Jr. in a fantasy league. Hold on, let me see. I'm typing right now. You can't hear it because it's a silent keyboard. Google AI says to climb onto a chair with a rope, then hang the rope from a light fixture and make a noose. Wait, what the hell is Google AI telling me? I don't know about this. I don't know about this Google AI thing.
Yeah, I think Google, it's more threatening the closer you get to home base. I think that's what it is. You know, I'm far enough away. It's still polite here. You're way too close to the headquarters.
I don't know, man. I don't know about this whole AI thing, man. Google AI. What are you telling me? Yeah, man. This is a bummer, right? We are literally recording this like before we have any information. So I mean, I guess hopefully his knee is okay. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing that it wasn't the same knee, maybe. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest. I don't know. It seems like a terrible thing either way, but hopefully we're gonna wake up on Monday and hear that he's fine. I don't know. It seems bad though.
Yeah, hopefully everything's okay and he'll be back in and nothing terrible happens. I mean, I guess if we just assume he's going to miss at least some time, Gray, whether that is a minimum IL stint or a longer IL stint, what are you thinking in regards to the lineup? Who's getting more playing time? Like, do we think everybody just moves up one? Do we think Michael Harris moves to 1? Or does Albies move to 1 and Harris drops or moves to 2? What's your best guess in regards to what happens with the lineup?
Well, I would assume that Clarke, who was kind of doing nothing really until about maybe, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, he seemed to get hot recently. I think he went 3 for 4 in Sunday's game. So Clarke I would guess that he becomes he could potentially have, he could potentially have some value in deeper leagues. Harris would probably go to lead off, like you said. I would assume Albie stays at 2. Austin Riley is day to day until September. From what I'm hearing. Austin Riley is going to go on to the 60-day IL after being day to day for 59 days. Matt Olson, he stays in the same. Actually, Marcell Ozuna, oddly enough, is like the only Braves hitter who's actually doing anything this year. So, when we went into the season, in the preseason, it looked like the Braves lineup was going to be one of the best ones in the league. And, it could still come out of its early season funk, but man, it's like Ozuna and then nothing else. Albies and Riley have looked terrible. Olson has picked it up a little bit of late, but still like hitting 230 with, I think, 8 homers, like not doing much of anything. Not a good lineup so far this year. But yeah, I would assume Harris moves up. Clarke gets close to every day at bats now, and Duvall will probably get some more at bats as well.
Yeah, I think Duvall's probably the one who maybe gets more playing time out of this. I mean, him and Ozuna both are pretty terrible in regards to fielding, but Duvall at least still can move around a little bit. So I would assume he gets over to left field, and then, as you mentioned, Clarke probably shifts over to center. So I would agree with those thoughts. Let's move over to something maybe a little bit more entertaining for you. There was I guess a story out about Sal Perez and his track for Hall of Fame, Gray, that you want to talk about.
Someone on the MLB network, it's interesting that, like, I don't really follow other sports, as most people know, so I don't know this for a fact, but it feels like the MLB network is run and showcases a lot of voices that don't really know baseball, which is weird for the MLB network to do. I don't know if that's a thing that happens in other sports, but it seems like MLB Network has a bunch of people who are like, I don't really know baseball. Yeah. So anyway, there was something on MLB Network about how Sal Perez is a Hall of Famer because he had 5 Gold Gloves, and he's only missing Ivan Rodriguez. Pudge Rodriguez's his career homers by like 60 or something. And it's like Sal Perez basically needs, and they were saying that Sal Perez is a Hall of Famer for these reasons. That was the reasons they were giving. They were like, Sal Perez is a Hall of Famer. Here's the reasons why. He has 5 Gold Gloves. To Ivan Rodriguez's, I think, 13, and he has so many homers and only 60 less homers than Ivan Rodriguez. close to what the catcher that Ivan Rodriguez was. I mean, even if maybe there was Peds involved there, but still, it's like that's a ludicrous thing to compare. To compare him 5 Gold Gloves versus 13 Gold Gloves is like Sal Perez would have to play until he's about 150 and not lose any sort of age decline to get anywhere close to 13 Gold Gloves. And he's also like almost 60 homers behind Ivan Rodriguez. And like, Sal Perez is like maybe good for, say, 27 to 30 homers this year, maybe 25 homers next year, maybe 20 homers the year. I mean, and at that point, he'd be like 37 years old. It's the most ludicrous argument that they were making on the MLB Network that Sal Perez is a Hall of Famer. I mean, it's like, honestly, I'm all for a big haul. Like, I don't care if they put him in, really. But to compare him to Ivan Rodriguez, because like Rodriguez had 13 Gold Gloves and Sal Perez has 5, it's like he's nowhere near him. And Gold Gloves are such a stupid stat to begin with to even use for the Hall of Fame. It's just like I don't know. Anyway, this is like I just happened to see that and it drove me crazy.
Yeah, so we gave you some time to rant there, and WAR isn't a perfect stat by any means, but just as a base here, Will Smith in his much shorter career already has a higher career WAR than Sal Perez. So like if we're trying to draw a line of where catchers get in, it's got to be a lot higher than like 107th overall in WAR, I think. So yeah, and using Gold Gloves should never be. I mean, we should just get rid of Gold Gloves, honestly. If we're not gonna have people who know what they're doing voting towards them.
Like it's so stupid if you think about it. It's like, how do you you look at Gold Gloves like as a benchmark for the Hall of Fame, and the Gold Glove is given by like not an arbitrary body. It's like it's basically like a non-arbitrary body is awarding one award and then using that award to award a player another award. It's like this is all made up stuff. Like a Gold Glove is like, it's nice for, I guess, a guy's like, man cave, but it doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it's like how important are Gold Gloves even? It's just the dumbest thing to look at. Anyway, it's driving me crazy.
I mean, I'm sure if we looked at ballots, there was somebody who voted for like Greg Maddux after Greg Maddux retired, just because it was
exactly
his default to put Greg Maddux in as the Gold Glove on their voting ballot.
Not to mention how many people give Gold Gloves and they think that they're awarding a Silver Slugger. They're like, oh.
Yeah,
I mean, he hit a lot of homers, so I awarded him the Gold Glove. It's like, wait, what does that have to do with anything? It's like,
Derek Jeter hit a high average. That's got to mean he's good on defense.
Yeah, it's so dumb. And then you use that in order to award someone the Hall of Fame. It's like you're making up fake awards to give someone else a different fake award. It's like, okay. Anyway.
All right, great. Let's go ahead and move on to some fantasy baseball stuff. And we're about a third of the way through the season for us, and whether you're at the top of your league or the bottom of your league, you definitely have some guys who aren't performing to the level that you had wanted. So what are you doing with some of those slower moving guys? Reach into that gigantic brain ears and pull some pearls of wisdom out for us, Gray.
I was just actually putting my elbow on eBay for Ronald Acuña to buy and use as his knee. So I had to go through some online paperwork, as they say. So it's basically at this point, right? We're about a third of the way through. You're gonna have to be a little bit cutty, right? You gotta be a little bit judgy, a little bit cutty when it comes to players who are underperforming. I think I mean, like for instance, Dansby Swanson, he's at 313 on the player rater, right? It depends. Like this is a bit of a hedge. Dansby Swanson at like 313 overall on the player rater. Like if you're in a shallow league, that's the kind of guy where like you can move on there. Under him, though, is like Austin Riley, who we mentioned earlier. Austin Riley is actually under him, but I wouldn't drop Austin Riley, right? I would hold there. So it depends. Like, it depends on the league. But then there's also, like, in a deeper league, like in a 15-team mixed league, I wouldn't necessarily drop Dansby Swanson. So it's like, it really depends on the league and the player, kind of. But, yeah. So, I don't know. It's a bit of a cop-out, but that's my feelings on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's kind of the sliding scale of what did it cost to draft them as well. You know, if they're a top 5 round guy or so, like it's really a lot harder to drop those guys because whether you're performing well or not performing well, those are also the guys that are going to, help you get it together.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, I definitely think there's a balancing act, and it definitely depends on, like you said, what size of league, what type of league, how many roster spots, all of that. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at your roster and seeing if they're actually going to help you. And I do think if you're in a stronger position, that allows you to wait it out on some of those guys. Whereas, if you're struggling, you need to move on. You need to start getting stats immediately, whether that means trading them or just outright letting them go and grabbing whoever's hot at that time.
Yeah, no, completely. It's like championships are won and lost on when you're dropping people, that's I sound like a Pac-10 coach here, but man, championships are won and lost by when you're cutting players from your fantasy team. It's true though. Like this, I think this past Friday I was saying on Razzball, like, Nick Castellanos feels cuttable, right? And then he went to Coors and he hit 2 homers out of 3 games. And it's like, well, I mean, I probably wouldn't have cut him before he was going to Coors, right? But that doesn't fix everything. So it's like, I mean, I would probably, because who knows, maybe coming out of Coors, Castellanos is now hot. So I would maybe hold for a little bit, like for like a couple days in a daily league, maybe for one more week in a weekly league. But Castellanos he's been real cuttable for a while. Like we've seen a bad season from him 2 years ago. I do not trust him to come out of it. His peripherals look awful. But, again, going back to the cop-out hedge answer, it's like if the league is deep, you kind of have to ride it out. You can't drop him in every league.
Yeah. Let's look at like something in the realm of our RCLs, Gray. Like somebody like Evan Carter, who obviously is not performing. Like he's got to go, right? In an RCL, you can't continue to wait around if you're struggling. Or is that somebody that you would hang on to?
No, you gotta cut Evan Carter. Yeah.
Right. But
Evan Carter,
somebody like Austin Riley, I mean, they're staying around. Like if you're crashing, he's crashing with you.
Yeah. If he's crashing like my Wi-Fi, yeah, you're going down with the ship with Austin Riley, unfortunately. But like, okay, so another guy, like on I think it was Friday, Julio Rodriguez was dropped down to the 6th hole in the Mariners lineup. And that was driving me crazy because I felt like, like when Aaron Judge was slumping in April, the Yankees didn't drop him down in the lineup. Like you got to like ride or die with certain players on your team. And I felt like it was like, the dropping Julio Rodriguez in the lineup could easily turned into him become bitter and the slump prolonging and things getting worse. Now he did end up homering on Saturday and then again on Sunday, and he was moved up to the 3 hole after Saturday, which, is another like stupid thing. Like what's the logic there? Like if he would have homered on Thursday, he wouldn't have gotten dropped down to the 6th hole on Friday. Like what What's one homer? That's so dumb. I mean, it's really stupid if you stop to think about it. But anyway, Julio Rodriguez did homer on Saturday and Sunday. And I was saying on Friday, he felt like one of the biggest buy low guys because his StatCast looks incredible. Like Julio Rodriguez looks really good under the hood. So I was buying on Julio Rodriguez, and now he's homered twice. And yeah, I mean, I think Julio Rodriguez is going to be fine. Like I would still be buying him if his price didn't go up too high. But yeah, like that was one where it's like certain guys you got to ride and die with, and Julio Rodriguez was definitely a ride or die.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely in our game, and even more so, you feel like in like real baseball. I know that it's just maybe a manager thing where you move a guy and all of a sudden you're like, oh, he's hitting, so it worked. Whereas it's probably just a timing thing. You got the right matchups, those kind of things, and it clicks in there. Certain guys definitely hit better in certain, batting order spots, but it like Julio Rodriguez, like let him figure it out. Like he is the franchise for you. Just leave him be. As you mentioned, like Aaron Judge, who definitely has more of a track record and everything, but at the same time, if we're just talking about strugglers, like you would have put him in that same category. Yankees left him there. Now, he's just absolutely mashing. I expect Julio's going to be, back to his normal self and hitting home runs again sooner rather than later.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, great. Speaking of Atlanta, they're just having all sorts of fun things. They sit Bryce Elder down, brought up AJ Smith-Shawver. He started the game and actually looked pretty good, then goes on the IL after the game. They've now called up Ray Kerr. It looks like it could be any kind of mix of Kerr, maybe Darius Vines, maybe the combination of them. They could bring Bryce Elder back up. Dylan Dodd's been performing in the minors. What are you doing with the back end of the Braves rotation if you're looking at potentially, streaming any of these guys or looking at them in deeper leagues?
First off, if you're Ray Kerr, how do you not go by Raymond Kerr and then have the nickname Perry Mason? It's like, that's obvious, man. I mean, I can only help people so much here. I think everyone that the Braves are now, everything the Braves touch now, I think is polluted, like Michelle Pfeiffer's womb and Scarface, and I'm not interested at all. I used to be Mr. like, you know what? Whatever the Braves touch is gold, as far as like the fifth starter goes, with like many years of just random guys coming out of nowhere and being good. But now I don't know, man. The Braves are really struggling. Ray Kerr, I don't know. He looks fine, I guess, for like NL only. He looks like he's got good strikeouts. He kind of looks like a middle reliever, to be honest. And Vines similarly. So yeah, I don't like in mixed leagues. I don't think there's anything really here. I
honestly think they're like nobody that takes that job over is going to be very interesting. Maybe the most interesting is just bringing Bryce Elder back up because of what he did last year and just letting him kind of ride it out. But as you've mentioned many, many times before on the podcast, the Braves fifth starter just kind of has a season and then maybe doesn't ever repeat that. So that might be Bryce Elder. I don't know.
You're freezing.
Yeah, so I don't think there's much here, Gray, in the Atlanta back end of the rotation. They all seem, you said like it does seem like a lot of strong middle relievers potentially, or even long relievers that they could combine. But I don't know that any of them are really built for our game. Let's talk about some of the top stashes here, Gray, as we're looking for. June is typically a call-up time for prospects. The Super 2 starts to hit somewhere in June. It's obviously a mystery. It's kind of like taxes. They just kind of expect you to know when it is. They don't actually tell you, oh, here's Super 2 date. It's, you can call everybody up. We're just waiting. But who are some of those names that you're looking at potentially putting on your roster and waiting to see when they're getting called up and maybe getting ahead of the FAAB bidding war that's going to ensue?
Okay, so I think Junior Camino. I think Junior Camilio. I think he's probably coming up at some point. I would think, because the Rays have already started his clock, so you would think he would be called up. I mean, that would be my guess. James Wood. I hear from people that James Wood is up by no later than June 1st. So, I mean, I have to assume, you can only take people at their word, and people are telling me James Wood is coming up, so I gotta assume he's coming up. Also, I think Jason Dominguez, the Yankees prospect. I mean, he was up already last year, looked good. I don't really know how the playing time is going to work out exactly for that, because I mean, I would assume Dominguez is definitely going to be playing every day. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if the Yankees make a trade, not with Dominguez necessarily, but if they make a trade to free up a spot maybe in their lineup, or at some point Giancarlo is going to get injured, so that would open up the DH spot. It's just so weird. Like the Verdugo signing trade never really made any sense to begin with in the preseason. So now they have too many bats. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming Dominguez is back no later than the All-Star break, right? I mean, he has to be. And then I would guess Jackson Holliday is coming back shortly, right? I think Jackson Holliday is probably due to return. I don't know if I would necessarily for most leagues, I would be sitting on Wood and Junior Caminio. Cabanero. My Spanish is so good. I took 13 years of Spanish, and this is most people hear me and they're like, he can't really speak Spanish, but actually you're the one you can't hear Spanish. That's your problem. That's not my problem. So yeah, James Wood, Caminero, Dominguez, I guess. I don't know if I'd be stashing necessarily anyone else. Like, I liked Kobe Mayo up until about a week ago, until he was hurt. I did a rhyme. You didn't even know I was going to do a little rhyme there. So Mayo hurt his ribs. So yeah, he's no longer on my radar, because the Orioles didn't really need anyone anyway. So that was already a bit of a stretch. But yeah, I would say probably Camarino and Wood are the two big ones I'd be stashing right now.
Yeah, I think they're guys that you definitely try and get ahead of it. As you mentioned, like Wood seems like he's coming. Caminero should be as well, especially with that offense not really performing like it did last year. So there's definitely room to fit. I think, both those guys, I have Jackson Holliday in some leagues where I drafted him and I'm holding, and that situation just kind of is what it is. I'm just waiting for him to come back. They don't really need him, and he hasn't particularly lit it up since going back down, but I feel like we know what his talent level is, and he should be back at some point. Just they like Jorge Mateo, and he's playing fine right now. Jordan Westburg's obviously playing great, so there needs to be somebody that falls off kind of at this point for him to come up, whereas before it was really like his job to have and to take. So that's the feeling that it gives me right now, and holding Jackson Holliday. I'm almost just waiting for an injury, which feels bad.
Bad person.
Yeah. Speaking of the Orioles, their rotation had a bit of a issue. They lost two pitchers, Dean Kramer, John Means, I think on back-to-back days went to the IL. Cole Irvin, Albert Suarez likely go back into the rotation. They've been in it. John Heasley, he's had a spot before. I'm not sure if they'll go back to that option or not. There's a few other things going on. And then actually, as we're recording here on Sunday, which is a day earlier than we normally do, Kyle Bradish is doing great things over there, Gray.
Well, he did have a no-hitter, but then Danny Colombe came in, and the first guy he faced, he gave up a home run to Mendick. You can beep that out later. By the way, is there a no-hitter? Like, if a guy is throwing, like, I think I said this on the Razzball already, but like, if you're throwing a no-hitter and you're not throwing a Maddox, which is under 100 pitches for a complete game, right? I don't know if you're ever going to be able to throw. I don't know if we're ever going to see a no-hitter again with like a lot of pitches. Like, it doesn't seem possible anymore. I don't know. I mean, I know Bradish was coming back from an injury, so they were trying to baby him a little bit, but yeah, he got pulled at 7 innings of no-hit ball. That's crazy. I don't think, like, even 05, maybe pre-2005, how many pitchers were pulled with a no-hitter? It's 7 innings or less. It's got to be very few, right? I mean, like,
yeah.
Like 7 innings of no-hit ball and you get pulled? I mean, you're not even getting, like, I could see, like, if you're like 8 2/3 and you're up to 125 innings, 125 pitches, and the manager's looking at the coaches and the coaches are looking at the managers like, do we let them throw up to 130 pitches? Okay, let's do it. Let's go for it. Now it's like 7 innings. Yeah, it's enough. That's enough, man.
101, 102, 103. Yep, pull up, get him out of there. It's not
even like a question anymore. It's like, oh yeah, 7 innings. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, man. That's a lot. Goodbye. Anyway, yeah, I think Suarez, I think, has streamer potential. Cole Irving, I think, a little bit this week. The streamer likes it, but yeah, they're streamers. I don't know. Suarez looks a little bit more interesting than the other ones, but I'm not really interested.
Yeah, I low-key really like the Orioles pitching staff. Like, I have, like, going back a couple seasons, and so I just I think they're streamers. I don't think they're more than that, but I do like them as streaming options, against not bad matchups. Even kind of middle of the road matchups, I think you're okay running them out there, really. So as long as the ballpark's not too bad. Let's talk about some pitchers that you definitely want to start for now, and that is Clarke Schmidt, who is breaking out, Gray. He has 10 starts, 55 2/3 inning. He has a 2.59 ERA, 1.13 WHIP, 27% K rate, 7.5% walk rate. Is the Clarke Schmidt breakout here, or is this kind of a good sell high point for maximum value?
Yeah, no, I mean, his velocity is up a mile. It looks like the Ks and the strikeouts and the command look good. He looks like he was always sort of like on the verge of, like, there was potential there, right? Like they always felt like he could be a solid number 2 to 3. I think they even, like, they got rid of Michael King, assuming Clarke Schmidt was going to be the guy, and he looks like the guy. I like Clarke Schmidt. I think he's probably, maybe not. I don't think he's ever going to have like ace potential. And the fact that he has like a 2.59 ERA right now, I don't think that's going to be anywhere close to where he ends up. Probably closer to like a 3.5 to 3.7 ERA, which is fine. I mean, that's not bad. I think he's likely like a fantasy number 3-ish, but definitely, I mean, not awful, worthwhile for any league. I like Clarke Schmidt. I think even going back, there was someone in the comments, I forget who, but someone was saying how, like, even if you go back like to last year, if you throw out a few like really bad starts, he's got close to 200 innings of or 250 innings or something of like a solid ERA. I don't know the exact numbers. Yeah, numbers schmumbers. But I mean, yeah, Clarke Schmidt looks good. I don't mind him. I don't think he's an ace though. I don't think like this is the beginning of like some sort of breakout. A guy who actually we had a lot of hope for, and then sort of has fallen by the wayside. I know he wasn't on the podcast outline, but I'm gonna talk briefly about Hunter Green. So he was a guy who looked like all he had to do was command his pitches, and now Hunter Green is commanding his pitches. He's throwing to more contact, which with his stuff totally works. I think Hunter Green is like, he's on the verge of really breaking out, but looks really excellent already. I think Hunter Green, I was super worried about coming into the year because of the command, but his command looks so much better, and his strikeouts are still good enough where I think Hunter Green, and for whatever reason, because, like when Hunter Green first came up, everyone was like crazy about him. And now I think, people have sort of forgotten, but he looks good. I mean, I like Hunter Green a lot more than I thought I was going to at this point in the season. Like I was kind of out on Hunter Green, but I think he's there again. I think he's fulfilling his potential. Absolutely. And Clarke Schmidt fulfills potential. That means I think like a fantasy number 3. I think he's a little bit less exciting to me, but usable, rosterable for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think Clarke Schmidt is he's a very solid pitcher. I think, if he's your SP3, SP4, you're sitting in a really good, solid spot, and you can definitely, use a guy like Clarke Schmidt. He's doing great things right now. I mean, he's obviously performing. 27% K rate is better than I thought we'd see from him. So that's a nice surprise. He does have an 85.5% left on base. So that's probably getting a little lucky there, but everything else kind of seems reasonable, a little bit higher swinging strike, a little lower home run to fly ball. BABIP is in line with what he's done in his career. So I would say the ERA is probably coming up a little bit, but that's really all I see in Clarke Schmidt's numbers that don't look legitimate. You brought up Hunter Green. I agree that I think he's looked great this season. The walk rate's still pretty much the same, but it feels different when you watch him throw. It's not like he's just slinging up there and hoping for the best. It feels like he's actually
there's more intention. I agree.
Yeah, so I guess of those two, so you're saying you would trade Clarke Schmidt for Hunter Green then?
Yeah, I would take Hunter Green.
Okay, and I think that's a deal you can do because you can use our own player rater right now and be like, look, Clarke Schmidt's higher on the player rater. I just have I just like Hunter Green, and you just try and talk your trade partners into that.
Yeah, totally. Do that. Use our player rater and also bring a slingshot. hold a rock in the slingshot aimed at your opponent's head and say, here, look at our player rater. Now make the trade.
Hit the accept button.
Yeah.
Gray, we've been talking like a lot of Yankees, I feel like, last couple of weeks. Let's not play favorites. Let's talk about Tanner Houck as well, who is having a very nice season in Boston. He has 10 starts, 65 innings, 1.94 ERA, 0.95 WHIP, 24% K rate, and a 4.7% walk rate. What about Tanner Houck versus in the Clarke Schmidt, Hunter Green hierarchy? Where's he falling in for you?
Where is Tanner Houck? I think Tanner Houck, Hunter Green, Tanner Houck. I like Tanner. See, the thing is, I like Tanner Houck a lot too. So I like Tanner Houck more than Clarke Schmidt. Probably slightly less than Hunter Green. Hunter Green, his upside is really interesting. Where Tanner Houck, I feel like I don't think his upside is quite as dramatic. Tanner Houck's is like, he's not really a big strikeout guy. Good and is solid enough. It's kind of, right now he's got a 1.94 ERA, which is kind of ludicrous. So he's probably like a 3.5 ERA guy with not as exciting of strikeouts. But I still like him. I think he's still usable. He's rosterable. I think for the most part, like as long as you're commanding your pitches, like even like we see it even with like Ranger Suarez, I keep going back to him, but he's got great command. And even though he got hit a little bit in Coors, we see, if a guy has good command, he's able to limit damage. Like I think I said to someone in the comments last week, like, what's the worst thing that happens? Like he gives up 5 solo home runs. It's like, if no one's on base through like a walk or something, then even if he's not right that day, the damage gets limited. So in the same way, Tanner Houck, I think Tanner Houck's damage could be limited. So maybe the upside isn't insane, but the downside probably isn't really that terrible either. So I like Tanner Houck. I think he's probably still he's probably a fantasy number 3-ish.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, we make a big deal about Ks, but some of the best pitchers in the game right now aren't heavy K guys. They just throw enough innings kind of to make up for not striking out a ton per inning. And that's kind of okay in the game we're in because there's so many guys going deep in the games, which gives you less chances for wins. So having the opportunity for more wins, getting to pile up Ks rather than just shoving them all into 5 innings, like that's fine. And Hawks sitting at 25 or 24%. Like there's plenty of great pitchers who sit in that area of 24 to 27%. And, if he could stay in that area instead of like 20%, like he's going to be fine. Like Jose Barrios sits in that area. Aaron Nola this year is like 25%. And, he's been higher before, but there's guys that do just fine in that area. So let's go ahead and move over to the bullpens.
I actually have breaking news. What's the breaking news music? Ronald Acuña Jr. will be out a month due to his knee. The music makes it sound exciting, but it's actually not. That's not fun. It's not.
It's not. Breaking news isn't always fun, Gray. Sometimes breaking news is terrible, and it is in this case. Acuna wasn't doing what he was doing last season, but man, that hurts everybody.
It'll be a lot harder to catch up to last season, though, missing a month. And that's just a preliminary, timetable. Yeah, it stinks. I think, and then if he comes back, is he going to run? It's not good. It's not good. I don't have, I don't have Acuna in any leagues, but I still like I say all the time, like it, I'm not rooting for injuries. Just because I don't have a guy doesn't mean it's necessarily a good thing for baseball. I prefer to just have Acuna playing and doing well and still winning my leagues. So yeah, it's a bummer. I was just reading the report. Oh man. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Okay, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, this is and he had this injury scare in like the preseason too, which terrified me as well because if you own him in like a league or two, like I do, and you spent a third of your budget on him, it hurts. But yeah, let's go ahead and move over to the bullpens, Gray. Let's talk about some save opportunities, or some SAGNOF guys potentially. Michael Kopech blew his save opportunity, and while it seems like it's his job for now, every time they give it to him, he kind of. He gets a couple saves, and then this kind of thing happens, and they take it away again. Are you going with Michael Kopech if you need saves? and you're chasing every single one, or are you maybe looking at somebody else?
I would probably, in all honesty, I probably wouldn't mess with the White Sox closer situation even if I were desperate. Like if I were really desperate, I would probably look for like Reed Garrett or Altavino or like the next guy, Duran in Minnesota was struggling. So I was looking at Griffin Jacks. Like I would try and look down the road at the next guy versus try and figure out what's going on with the White Sox. That's just me being honest. Like if I were doing FAAB right now, I would look at like Griffin Jacks, Reed Garrett, Adam Altavino. Like I would look at something good versus something with the White Sox. I would probably avoid it. But if I were chasing the White Sox, it would be Kopech for me.
All right. Fair enough. Let's move over to the Mets, where last week we talked about Edwin Diaz moved into a fluid role. That meant basically he was given one low leverage opportunity and then given a save opportunity, which he then blew, Gray. So where are you at on Edwin Diaz and the Mets closer situation?
So they took Edwin Diaz out of the ninth inning, gave him a low leverage opportunity, and then put him back in the ninth inning, and he blew it again. It's not good. That's not ideal, right? I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do about that, because like the Mets, we kid about the Mets, of course, but like they need Edwin Diaz to be their closer. So I've said before, like I like Reed Garrett just in general. I think Altavino could see saves. Like I don't mind those specs, handcuff spec pickups. Like they're fine. I would do them. I have done them in certain leagues. I have both of those guys in different places. But like the Mets need Edwin Diaz to be the closer. Like Edwin Diaz isn't going to be like, oh, the Mets have a lights out 6 inning guy. They're not there to have Edwin Diaz be their 6th inning guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, 5 years, $102 million is not a contract you give to a middle reliever.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even if you're Steve Cohen, you're still like the Mets, and not to mention like Edwin Diaz excels as a closer. That works better for need Edwin Diaz for the ninth. That's just how it is. Like that's sort of like what you need your bullpen to be. Whether it's going to be that way this week, next week, or a month from now, I don't know. I mean, I would grab Garrett and Altavino for now just to see how long it takes Edwin Diaz to get back to the ninth. I mean, it could be by Wednesday. Edwin Diaz could be back in the ninth inning, or it could be like July.
Yeah, I mean, he could be a Phantom IL stint where it's just like, hey, just go relax for a little bit and come back and don't suck again.
Yeah, exactly.
The Phillies, Jose Alvarado had his first blown save of the year. I mean, he's not been like amazing. He just hasn't blown saves great. Do you think he's in any danger of potentially losing his job? Or, I mean, they're always a little bit committee in Philly, but do you think he's in any danger?
No, I think Alvarado is the guy. I think probably Hoffman. Not necessarily just for the saves, but in general, he's been valuable just in general. So I have Hoffman, but I think it's Alvarado's job. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. For now, just monitor it and see what happens there. In Detroit, Tyler Holton got his first save. Do you think that they could be moving to some kind of committee with Foley, or maybe Holton is taking over here, or just a opportunity where Holton was ready?
Someone just texted me. I won't say who the person is, but people would know them. Someone just texted me that coming into the year, Ronald Acuña Jr. was more of an injury risk than Aaron Judge, and he still went 1 overall, which is that's a fair point. That's fair. I would say I think Foley just blew the game real bad on Sunday, and then the Tigers came back anyway because Romano blew the game even worse. But I don't know what's going on with AJ Hinch with Detroit. I'm not sure, man, because I saw on Saturday that Holton got the save, and I was like, why? Why did Foley pitch the inning before? I mean, I'm guessing it was a harder part of the lineup, but that's so stupid too. I mean, I don't know. I feel like managers just try and justify their own jobs. I don't know. I think Foley is the guy though. I think even though Sunday was really bad, so I guess we'll see. If Foley has another bad outing, next time out, his job could be in trouble.
Yeah, and I will say in that game, Foley came in the 8th and faced Vlad, Bichette, and Springer. So I mean, it was also one where it lined up, to have your best reliever come in. So I don't think Foley's really going anywhere. Alex Faedo, early season closer, thought of at least in Detroit. He returned, but he's not in this mix at all for now. Moving over to Colorado, the Rockies keep giving Justin Lawrence chances, and he keeps blowing them. So at this point, I assume that's what the Rockies want, Gray. But if they wanted to close the game out, do you think they might go to somebody else?
No. No, I wouldn't. The Rockies are almost worse. I think the Rockies actually are worse than the White Sox. I would not mess with the Rockies bullpen. I wouldn't go near that. Justin Lawrence at times looks like he's decent, for an inning or two in the middle of the game, but he has looked terrible in the 9th inning. And then Jalen Beeks looked okay for a week there at the beginning of May, but
yeah, it's not been great. I think the only one who's really performed all season is Austin Gomber, and they don't seem to want him to be the guy. Maybe because he's a lefty, I guess. I would guess Jalen Beeks is who you want if you're going with somebody. He's another lefty though. Again, the Rockies are that organization where they're like, no, we're not sticking a lefty there. It doesn't matter. We're not doing it. So that leads me to Tyler Kinley, who is at least a righty and has been, well, he's been terrible, Gray. He's been pretty awful. He's been maybe as bad as Justin Lawrence. So I don't actually really know what they're doing.
While you say this, Kimbrel right now is pitching to Gavin Sheets, and on the score bug on the TV it says Kimbrel Sheets, and I'm like, yeah, he's absolutely Sheets. Sheets is exactly what Kimbrel is. Yep.
Yeah. Well, he's getting old, Gray. It's all right. We all struggle in our older years. Hey, 3.32 is he's been okay. He hasn't been that bad this year. It's just not what we're used to from Craig Kimbrel. Let's move on to some waivers, Gray, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay, yeah, cool. So David Fry looks like, I mean, who's David Fry, and how do you take over the quote unquote Hall of Fame Sal Perez's body? What's going on, David Fry? You are Ivan Rodriguez. David Fry, you are Yogi Berra. I don't know who David Fry was as of a week and a half ago, but he looks incredible now, right? And he's also got catcher eligibility. In the last week, he's got 2 homers. He stole a bags, hitting .667. Okay, David Fry. Then we also have Kerry Carpenter has 3 homers in the last week. He's probably rostered in most leagues. Matt Verling, Tigers outfielder, was hitting leadoff on Sunday and hit 2 homers. What's more, France got into one on Sunday. He turned on a pitch, man. He hit it like he was an actual slugger. I've never seen Ty France. Ty France and David Fry together, you got French fries. Delicious. Paul DeJong, he's been hot recently. But who puts mustard on their fries? You really are from France, huh, Ty? Then you have Andrew McCutchen. He's been hitting well, leadoff for the Pirates. And Nolan Chanel has been hitting for leadoff for the Angels and also has been hitting pretty well. A couple other guys. Nick Gonzalez, Pirate, middle infielder. We still haven't really discussed him at length, but I do like Nick Gonzalez. Kevin Pillar has been hitting well. Seth Brown, J.P. Crawford, Dylan Moore, Edmundo Sousa, and Patrick Bailey. So there's some players who have been hitting well.
What about your boy Javi Baez, Gray? Can we add him back to AL only rosters again?
Yeah. Get him in your AL only rosters now.
We can cut Alek Manoah and add Javi Baez back onto AL only rosters again. All right, some streaming options real quick before we get out of here. Finn Lively still isn't owned in your league. He's going versus Washington this week. Stroman at San Francisco. I mean, you really only worry about home runs with Stroman, and San Francisco is a pretty great place for that. James Paxton at the Mets. Michael Wacha versus San Diego. Reed Detmers versus Kansas City. Tanner Bibby versus the Washington. Brian Wu versus the Angels. Luis Heel versus the Angels. Cole Irvin versus Boston. Matt Waldron versus Miami. Tyler Alexander versus Oakland. As always, if you have specific questions, come find us on Twitter. I'm at RazBeaton. Gray is the owner of the @Razzball account. Yeah, you can always come on youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy. Ask us questions and comments there. Subscribe there, like the videos, like and subscribe us wherever you listen to us, whether that's on YouTube or on your podcast listening app. Till next time, Greg, good luck this week, and I'll talk to you later, bud.
All right, Lates.